I wanted to respond to your point about the family structures. With this flattening of the earth and the global traveling, I think there are two outcomes. Either you become more internationalist, or you become nationalist. So I don't think conservatism is going to die, especially regarding to these family issues. But I think even the nationalists or the people who discover that they're nationalists after they travel, I think that they'll still go back global-minded, and I don't know that when they vacate the local or nearby lake will be the only choice every year. I still think that there will be that desire to see other parts of the world. So I think it's multifaceted.
And I think it's more than just the traveling aspect. Remember, there's this social networks and connectivity.
I see an interesting paradox in some of the things that you've said this morning, and some of the things that I've read recently, and that is that on one hand we're talking about the American population becoming more global. In other words, one might interpret that to mean that they will become more mobile on a global basis. But on the other hand, what we're finding is that in Asia, for example, in India, young professionals don't have to leave India now to do what it is they do. In China, the same thing is happening. So it's, in fact, possibly the opposite of what we see in America. What do you see as the long-term impact of that, and what could be the implications of that?
Global is global, whether people set foot outside the country or not. So yes, it's true. We're seeing it in Dubai, for example. People from Mumbai say, "Why should I go to Dubai for a few pennies? I can make a few pennies in Mumbai now," and that's interesting. But the option for the better deal is the thing that's going to be more and more out there. And the sense that if things do tighten here, I can always go there. Now that's the story of emigration and immigration, and it's been that story for hundreds of years. But the opportunities to get there, the opportunities to learn what's out there are important. The world is rushing. The numbers of people with internet access at home, and hence then social connectivity, networking, is just enormous. China, in absolute terms, has more internet accessible households than any other place in the world, more than the United States. India is catching up. It's that God writes straight with crooked lines. We're seeing little interruptions along the way. These are little interruptions, I think, when considering things in broad ethical terms.
God, can you put God into it since you brought up God? How do we deal with religion, and whether it's the family or whether it's any of that, the global? Are there any work you've done or any statistics or anything on that?
There's always room for God. Yeah, he's got some staying power. He's been around a long time, and that's one prediction.
Good bad.
Good bad, yeah. So the implications are, lots of crooked lines. On one hand, real growth in event.
Well, go with this generation, though. Stay
with this generation?
Yeah, stay with those younger ones. What have you done any research or is there any feedback on what do these people think about religion? Do they not? Is it private? Is it depending on what countries they're coming from? Are they spreading this through their Facebook and saying, I was at this wonderful ceremony we do in wherever they are? Or do people...
No broad trend. It's very practical. For some, as it always has been, it's going to be deistic. And deism, a form of deism that is very practical and makes an awful lot of sense in a world where there are many, many more scientific and technological answers. On the other hand, and this is not just a rural or small town phenomenon, it really cuts across. There are those evangelicals growing who want the passion and want the interactivity that comes with that. The interesting thing is, and again, this is polling in the U.S., is that young Christian conservatives are not your grandfather's young Christian conservatives. These are young people who are still conservative on social issues, but are saying to their pastors, as well as telling us pollsters, okay, we get it on abortion and gay marriage, is guns, but that's not what we want to talk about anymore. We don't talk about global poverty. We want to talk about global warming, man's stewardship of God's earth. I've got a poll coming out, I guess, in a few hours about young conservative Catholics who want to change their lifestyle and want the federal government involved in reducing carbon emissions, human-caused carbon emissions. This is a sea change that we're seeing. And it's a sea change that we saw during this past election cycle. As young Christian conservatives voted for John McCain, but they voted for Barack Obama in greater numbers than before, and it was on those kinds of issues.
My son just did something, just a statistical thing, and a group of people in our local Catholic church here have been questioning their religion. They're all mid-teens, and they want more science to it. How do you know that Jesus Christ was here, that he lived, the history, the historical part, and they want scientific evidence? And we've gone so far as to set up a meeting with our pastor, with our priest, to talk about those things with a group of students. So it's just maybe something, I don't know if you've ever heard, but that says it all. What you're saying sounds like the same kinds of things and different things. They want to test these things, and they want to discuss it, and they want to explore it, and not just sort of say this is the way it was, but they want to go with it and talk about it. You said that earlier, and get some kind of understanding, closure of it. Even if they don't agree with it, they want to understand it so they can then make up their own minds. And we find that very interesting. And also, they want to meet the priest. They want to get together as a group and have a discussion. We're not allowed to be there, but we're facilitating that meeting. So I just thought that
there is a little section in the book about the Church of the Future, and again, that is
providing food
in
and
America. There's a section in the book about the Church of Tomorrow, which is living, as opposed to the big glass mega church. That whether it's deistic or evangelical, that need for bonding that is very important. Right now, the evangelicals are winning on that. There's another aspect to all of this, and that is the growth of ultra-conservative evangelicalism in Latin America and in Africa, and to a great degree among Hispanics in the United States. This is a very intriguing phenomenon, something that both Democrats and Republicans need to pay attention to. The fastest growing segment of Latinos in the United States and coming to the United States are not Catholic. They're conservative evangelicals. Now, the Republican Party did a very nice job alienating them in 2000. It's breathtaking how many different groups they were able to alienate all in one election cycle, you know. But, you know, clearly this was one. Jim?
Question, the 18 to 30-year-olds, first schools, do you have a percentage or any stats on the secular spiritualism in that group?
Yeah.
How they identify?
It's 42% overall. It's less among young people. Remember, 20-somethings...
Sorry, 42%?
Overall, meaning all adults in the United States. It is smaller among 18 to 29-year-olds, but present. My last count was at about 32% of First Globals. And the reason for that is, remember that 20-somethings still are materialistic. in every meaning of the word. There are still those aspirations for the future. There's still consumption. There's still pressure, to look good.